Being 7 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bosphus.
Here.
Commissioner Baker.
Here.
Commissioner Collins. Commissioner Gary.
Here.
Commissioner Miller.
Here.
Commissioner Talentino. Commissioner Twardy.
Here.
Okay, Commissioner Collins called and said he was fighting the flu tonight. So, and then, of course, Commissioner Talentino is out of town. So, Commissioner Twardy.
I'd make a motion that we excuse Commissioner Collins and Commissioner Talentino.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much. Just a couple of items. Those with cell phones, if you would please put them on vibrate or turn them off, we would appreciate it. Also, I'd like to congratulate our longtime media person who's been covering City Commission meetings, Frank Bassett and his wife Anna, on the birth of their daughter this last week. Congratulations and welcome to fatherhood. Okay, yeah, right, yeah. With that, item number 1, public comment on scheduled agenda items. Any person may reserve time to speak on an agenda item, not to exceed 3 minutes per person. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on an agenda item? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item number 2, which is the consent agenda. Deputy City Manager Twoyer.
Under the consent agenda, A, minute approval. 1, approval of the minutes of the regular City Commission meeting of February 19th, 2018. Recommended action is to approve the minutes of the regular City Commission meeting of February 19th, 2018. Item 2, acceptance of the minutes of the following boards and commissions. A, Downtown Development Authority, January 10th. B, Historic Structures Management Committee, January 31st. Recommended action is to accept the minutes of the various boards and commissions. Item B, appointments and resignations. 1, resignation and appointment to the Downtown Development Authority. Recommended action is to accept the resignation of Ben Duff from the Downtown Development Authority and appoint Dana Sanderson to fill the balance of a term to expire April 1, 2020. Item C, City Manager's Report. 1, authorization of purchase of generic time from the Michigan Municipal Employees Retirement System, MERS, by Amber Petrangelo. Recommended action is to approve a resolution authorizing the purchase of 3 years and 4 months of generic time from MERS by Amber Petrangelo, with the employee paying 100% of the estimated actuarial cost. Item 2 under the City Manager's Report is approval of a private use agreement for the use of Ridge Street right-of-way with ExxonMobil Corporation. Recommended action is to approve the private use agreement for the use of Ridge Street right-of-way with ExxonMobil Corporation.
Okay, thank you. Is there a commissioner that would like something further explained on the consent agenda? Otherwise, let's go to Commissioner Gary.
I would make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Mayor Bosphus?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item 3, special orders of business. A, the public hearing of a resolution to vacate without retention of utility easements the full width of the portion of East 9th Street, also known as East 9th Avenue, lying between East 10th Avenue and Marquette Avenue, and to vacate with the retention of a utility easement only over the full width of the southerly 140 feet thereof, the full width of the alley located between Fletcher's Addition, Block 2, and W.C. Teeter's Addition, Block 3, also known as Dakota Street.
Thank you. City Manager Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. On this matter, I've requested that Community Development Director Freeman present to the Commission.
Okay. Evening, Kelly.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. So the Sioux Tribe of Chippewanese is the applicant on this application, and they're working on constructing improvements to J.K.L. Boateng Elementary School. And part of those improvements is a desire for them to expand their campus eastward. They have quite a bit of property that direction, However, it is broken up by 2 right-of-ways, and they're requesting the vacation to remedy that. So the 2 right-of-ways are East 9th Street, also known as East 9th Avenue, depending on the plat that you're looking at, and that runs north-south immediately east of the existing campus. What we know as Dakota Street is actually an alley, and they're requesting for the vacation of that as well. The tribe owns all but 3 of the parcels that are adjacent to the right-of-ways that they're requesting to be vacated. They own everything that's between East 9th and Dakota. There are 3 parcels which are not in that area. You can see them outlined here. These are the 3 privately owned parcels. There's a 30-foot right-of-way available on the east side of these parcels, so there's continued access. The city engineer is not concerned, so we're not going to be landlocking anybody. You can see the right-of-way in this location here. So these non-tribal parcels will continue to have legal access in the future should a road be constructed in this location. As far as public comment or a comment from utilities, DTE had no objection. But they have a gas line in this area outlined here in orange, and they've requested a utility easement be retained over that area to maintain the gas line, and the tribe has no issue with that. AT&T and Cloverland have no facilities in the area, so neither object to the vacation, including the elimination of utility easements. I did hear from one of the property owners, Mr. David Knowles. He sent me an email to express objection. He felt that the vacation would make it more difficult to access his property, which is the southerlymost parcel here. I spoke with his wife subsequently and explained that there's no access to it. The alley doesn't continue up that far. There's no right-of-way on the east side either. I believe they live in Minnesota and hadn't been up to town to visit the property to see what they actually had. So they were under the mistaken impression that they could get to it. The conversation that we had ended with her requesting the tribe's contact information so she could potentially explore a sale. Although when I spoke with the tribe most recently about this a few weeks ago, she had not reached out to them to have that discussion. The Planning Commission met at their January 25th, 2018 meeting to consider this application and voted 8-0. To recommend that the request be approved. So the action before the City Commission tonight would be first to hold a public hearing on the request. Wendy Hoffman, the transportation planner for the Sioux Tribe, is here to answer any questions that the Commission may have of her. And it's the staff and the Planning Commission's recommendation that the request be approved as recommended by the Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you. City Manager, anything further?
Thank you, Mayor. Just appreciate the presence of Ms. Hoffman here tonight and the work that Mr. Freeman put into discussing with adjoining property owners. The improvements do represent a significant improvement to the tribe's educational system, and with the unanimous recommendation from Planning Commission and the lack of landlocking concerns. There are 2 recommendations. The first, that the City Commission hold a public hearing, and secondarily, approve the resolution to vacate as presented.
Okay. Any questions of Kelly or the manager? Commissioner? Okay. At this time, we hold a public hearing on the resolution to vacate without the retention of utility easements the full width of the portion of East 9th Street, also known as East 9th Avenue, lying between East 10th Avenue and Marquette Avenue, and to vacate with the retention of utility easements only over the full width of the southerly 140 feet thereof, the full width of the alley located between Fletcher's Addition, Block 2, and W.C. Teeter's Addition, Block 3, also known as Dakota Street. Is there anyone in the audience like to make comment at this time? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public comment. City Commission. Commissioner Twardy.
I so move that we approve the city manager's recommendation.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy?
Yes.
Mayor Bosvis?
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you.
Item B, under special orders of business, is introduction and first reading of an ordinance to rezone the easterly 62 feet of Lot 166, Assessor Subdivision Number 3, from RM1 Multifamily Residential to B2 Central Business District, and schedule a second reading for the March 19th, 2018 regular City Commission meeting.
Okay, thank you. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. On this matter, again, Mr. Freeman will present to the commission.
Okay.
Good evening again. So the subject property is located at the southeast corner of the T of Ashman and Water Street. There's 116 feet on Ashman and 152 feet on Water Street. You can see that the property includes what most know to be the alley that connects Water Street to the main mid-block alley. However, that does indeed lie on this property, and we'll get to that in a second. So the property contains a building that's about 1,400 square feet. It was built in the late 20s, early 30s as a gas station and operated that way until the late 1960s. From what I can tell, it transitioned to retail uses shortly thereafter and was purchased by the current owner, Mrs. Judith Old, in 1973, along with her husband. They used that property to operate the old insurance agency until the late 90s. Since the closure of that agency, there's been various commercial enterprises operating out of that property. Most recently was the 727 School of Cosmetology, which has recently relocated into the old Bump and Tot space in Les Townsend's Island Book and Crafts building. Presently, the building is vacant and listed for sale, and Hiawatha Behavioral Health, the co-applicant in this application, is working with Mrs. Old to purchase the property to expand their services in the area. As part of HBH's due diligence process, they need written confirmation from the local government that the property is usable for their purposes. The west 92 feet of the property, which is Zone B2, is perfectly usable. However, the east 62 feet, which is zoned RM1, a residential district, is not usable for those purposes. So the request tonight is to rezone that eastern 62 feet from RM1 to B2, so the entire property would be consistently zoned B2. You can see on the aerial the area of the property that is zoned RM1 presently, and the area that's zoned B2, that's the pink, located west. So looking at the zoning history, it seems that the split has always been in place. The 1927 zoning map shows the western 100 feet of Lot 166 as being the B business zoning designation, with the balance as the C residence district. That was the equivalent of multifamily at the time. Here is an excerpt from the 1927 zoning map showing the corner in question. These depths are assumptions on my part. Since they look like they were handwritten on there, I don't know when or how that came to be, so it's a little bit suspicious as to the validity of those without being able to go far back in the record and figure out exactly how those came to be written on there. And you can see here is the current zoning map reflecting what we have today. So I really don't know why the issue wasn't corrected back in 1930. As I stated, the dimensions appear to be written later, so maybe it was just a lack of precision that was to blame. Except for a brief period between 1965 and 1975, we didn't have parcel lines on our zoning map, so we were left to guess roughly where these lines were. And this is actually the style of the map that was used between 1976 and about 2002. And you can see the entire block here can be obscured by laying a penny over it. So to be able to ascertain where that line is with any great degree of accuracy is nearly impossible. In 2013, fairly recently, we converted to a fully electronic format, and that, when overlaid with this old zoning information, really exposes where zoning lines and parcel lines don't really coincide, which they really all ought to. Regardless of how it came to be, commercial activities in residential zoning is not permitted, so this has been in violation of the zoning ordinance since the building was constructed, so now is a very good time to take care of that. As we do with any rezoning request, we take a look at the master plan. That shows this area as being within the central business district future land use designation, and the proposed B2 zoning, which coincidentally is central business, is kind of the companion to that future land use, so there's no issues with consistency there. Additionally, the majority of the property is already Zone B2 and has a history of 90 years of historical non-residential use. So this is more adjusting the map to match how the property has been used than any major change in how the property can be used moving forward. Here you can see the future land use map, and the block in question here is circled in blue. From a best practices standpoint, split zonings are generally undesirable. They add a lot of confusion as to how a property can be used, especially when you have two districts, like a commercial and a residential district, that have very different permitted use lists. And in a situation like this where it passes through a building, that makes it another degree more complicated, because what can they use that back corner for? I failed to be able to come with a good answer for that. Additionally, as we talked about, they're seeking a written compliance letter from the local zoning authority that says that this property can be used for their purposes. However, until the split zoning is resolved and the entire property has a commercial zoning, I'm not in a position to write that letter for them. So this is kind of complicating that property transaction. And oddly enough, I think it was back in 2016, we had a similar issue with Lake Superior Estates Mobile Home Park. They were going through a sale, and we identified a split zoning and took care of it in this same fashion. Luckily, it's not an issue that comes up fairly frequently, but when you rebuild after a loss, you have different building setbacks, different height requirements, different permitted uses. It just overly complicates the use of property. So there's no real compelling reason for the RM1 designation to remain in place, given the totality of the history and best practices here. The Planning Commission considered this request at their February 22nd meeting. There were three main concerns expressed. First was the disposition of the alley connector. I think most people in the community are under the impression that that's public land. However, it's not. What the proposed use by HBH was for the property, as well as any physical changes to the neighborhood character that this rezoning would have moving forward. So to speak to the alley, which you can see in this aerial, it's been there since at least 1954 and has never been publicly owned. So this has been a history of public use of private land. The city has maintained the road surface, and at least presently the Lambroses plow that because there are apartments adjacent. This is the only way you can get a vehicle to and from that property. I've had some phone discussions with the CEO of HBH, and they have no need to own that, so they would be willing to deed that over to the city if their transaction moves forward. Depending on the outcome of this meeting tonight, I would expect a second reading, the staff would be seeking permission from the City Commission to accept that property from HBH and work with them to accomplish that transaction. Another concern was what HBH's future plans are for the property. Now, provided they are compliant with the B2 requirements, they're free to do as they please. They would enjoy the same property rights as any other property owner. And for the sake of due process, the application has to be considered based on its merits, not who's asking for it. Just as an individual cannot be looked at with a greater advantage than your generic applicant, they can't be looked at with a lesser advantage either. Everybody stands on the same footing when they're before the City Commission. Additionally, there were concerns expressed that the commercial zoning would progress down Water Street and lead to the eventual demolition of the homes along the street. The dwellings are all zoned RM1, and that would need a City Commission action to change those to commercial. And from where I stand at this point, that would be unlikely to receive staff support, at least for me, but that would have to come back before this body in the future were that to happen. So the Planning Commission recommended approval on a 5-0 vote, and the recommendation before the City Commission tonight is to receive public comment on the request and then approve the first reading and schedule a second reading for the March 19th, 2018 City Commission meeting. Mrs. Margaret Crawford is here on behalf of Judith Old. I believe there are a couple individuals from Hiawatha Behavioral Health here as well.
Thank you, Kelly. Any questions of Kelly? Really, the only reason the city is involved is because the RM1, as part of that, this part of the 224 square feet of the present building lay in the area that's zoned RM1, RM-1.
That's part of the problem. From my standpoint, I don't view the use of the building as distinct from the use of the entire property. So even if this didn't include the building, it would still be an issue,
Sure.
in my opinion.
And then the city will have ownership of the, is your intent that the city will have ownership of the alley area that presently is being plowed by the Lambroses and
Correct.
maintained by the city? Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Comments? City manager? Thank you.
For the commission's knowledge and public's knowledge, there are two actions in front of the city commission. The first would be receiving public comment on the rezoning, and secondarily, it's my recommendation that the city commission approve the first reading of the ordinance as presented and schedule the second reading for the March 19th meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll have a public comment on the information that was received by the commission. Is there anyone who'd like to speak at this time? Yes. If you'd like to come to the podium and identify yourself for the record, Craig, we'd appreciate it.
My name's Craig Cooper. My family lives in one of the historical homes on Water Street. One of our biggest concerns is just access to that alleyway. If the city is willing to take over that alleyway, keep it plowed, keep it maintained, it would mean a lot to us, because right now that's one of two ways to access our home from the back where our garage is. If that's taken away, it's down to one. Becomes more of a hassle. So just from people who live on that block, their standpoint, as long as the alley stays, I don't see a problem with this at all. So.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. If you'd identify yourself for the record, we'd appreciate
My
it.
name is Janet Spencer, and I live at...
See the microphone right there? That's so people at home can hear.
Okay, my name is Janet Spencer, I live at 140 East Water Street, and I am concerned that this could move down our street. And when you look at the map that we were provided last week, it looks like it was two separate properties in the beginning, and whoever built that structure built it over, the properties were merged, it looks like, and they built the building that currently exists there over the property line, which is why there's two different zonings on that section, that property. And I know you're saying you can't consider the usage of the property, but townships and cities often consider usage of properties. And there's a park in the area. There's, it's all residential on Water Street. It's a historic street. It's a tourist area, heavily frequented by tourists and children at the park. I myself have many grandchildren that visit me and stay with myself and my husband in the summer, and I am greatly concerned that there's going to be a shelter there where I will not feel safe in my neighborhood, and I will not feel safe with my grandchildren in that neighborhood, nor will I feel safe with kids across the street in that park, as they frequent there all summer long, and the tourists are up and down our street all summer long. And it is an issue that this city needs to be very concerned with. You're putting that in the middle of our residential area with historic homes and a tourist district where you're going to have many people wandering the streets that are going to be mentally unstable or drug addicted. And I think that is a problem, and the city needs to consider that. Even though it sounds unpleasant, it's something the city really needs to consider. And I'm extremely concerned for the demographics, what is going to happen to our neighborhood, and our property values also. But more than property value, I'm concerned about my safety, to be honest with you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll close the public comment. City Commission. Commissioner Twardy.
I have a question though, because the way that the alley is sitting right now, the Historical Society and Bird's Eye Outfitters put a blockade because where that alleyway goes to, it goes to their private parking lot. and people used to be able to freely drive through, but I understand why Ken and Wilda Hopper put those rocks there, because traffic was barreling through their parking lot. So they put the rocks there, and is it difficult for the city to try and maintain that half of an alley if you can't? There's really not enough room for a snowplow to get in there and then turn around and then get back out, because there's only one way in and out. I know that we're not the street department, but
City
I
manager?
guess I'm kind of concerned with.
That is certainly a consideration that we would review with the street department prior to the meeting on the 19th, at which point in time it would be feasible for the city to accept the deed
Okay.
to the alleyway, but certainly that's a point well taken.
Okay, and I do think it's important for us, for the Lambroses to have alley access, because with the way that that garage is situated in the back, that is the only way in and out. So it's very nice of Mrs. Old to deed that property to the city. I was just concerned with the plowing area. And just one more comment. I'm also concerned when we're looking at changing zoning and what potential business may come into the area. I also get really concerned. Personally, I don't feel like it's the commission's right to be able to say whether we're only looking at the zoning and we're only looking at a business that's been there for a long, long time, and we're only the only availability for us to make a determination on is whether we can change that from RM1 to business. And I do think that if people have issues or they have concerns, you should come to the next meeting also, and because this meeting is just to make that zoning change. But I would love to hear from the community more, if you have feelings about types of businesses going in, but this is just to consider the zoning change.
I would like to state also that I previously lived in Traverse City, and on A Street, first we had.
Oh, ma'am, that wasn't a question. Okay, so your time was here, but now it's the commission time. I don't want to cut you off, but it's procedure. Otherwise, anybody can get up and speak. Thanks.
Right. So then that's it.
Okay. Anyone else? Do we have a motion? Commissioner Tuarty? Or
I will make a motion to approve the first reading of the ordinance as presented and schedule a second reading for March 19, 2018 at the City Commission meeting.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Are there any further questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
No.
Commissioner Tuarty,
Yes.
Mayor Bosmas,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Yep.
Item 4, Communications. A, from Ordinance Evaluation Committee, first reading of an ordinance, of ordinances enacting changes to Chapter 6 and Chapter 9 of the Code of Ordinances.
Thank you. City Manager Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. As commissioners are aware, the City Commission took action at its February 12th goal-setting session to support the reestablishment of the goal of creating a committee that includes members of the business community and partners to reevaluate every city ordinance at least 50 years old. As noted previously, the goal of this committee is to review the codified ordinances of the city on a chapter-by-chapter basis in an effort to review existing ordinances, repeal unnecessary ordinances, and ensure that efficiencies are continuing to be maximized in municipal operations. As a result of the work of the committee, a comprehensive review of Chapters 6, 9, and 14 of the Code of Ordinances has been completed, referring to amusements, businesses and business regulation, and licenses and permits. As commissioners are aware, during its January 2nd regular meeting, the Commission invited public feedback for a 30-day period of time on changes which include those provisions being eliminated because they're unnecessary, relating to the use of drawn shades, restrictions on bowling alley, billiard room hours, restrictions and regulations regarding carnivals and circuses, restrictions on fire sales, bankruptcy sales, and the loitering of minors, as well as regulations on used automobiles and parts, auctioneers, and the filming of movies, televisions, and commercials. Additionally proposed for elimination due to additional resources being present under state law are provisions addressing gambling and massage parlor regulations. As a note, the balance of Chapter 14 would be retained in whole. Subsequently, the City Commission took action during the February 19th regular meeting to direct administration to draft an amendatory ordinance which would enact the presented changes. The ordinance has been included within a packet, and it's my recommendation that the City Commission first hold a first reading of the presented ordinance enacting proposed changes to Chapter 6 of the City Code of Ordinances, and secondarily hold a first reading of the presented ordinance enacting proposed changes to Chapter 9 of the City Code of Ordinances. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Baker.
I move that we hold the first reading for the Chapter 6 ordinance change.
Support.
Okay, there are two, let's see, we can, and hold first reading, and hold, would there are two recommendations, we'll take them as two, okay? So the first one was Chapter 6 on the city ordinances, and we have support. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty,
Yes.
Mayor Bospis.
Yes.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Gary.
Yes.
Motion carried. And Commissioner Baker, item number 2.
Move to hold the first reading, presented an ordinance enacting proposed changes to Chapter 9 of the City Code of Ordinances.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Tuorty,
Yes.
Mayor Bospis.
Yes.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item B under Communications is also from the Ordinance Evaluation Committee, review of Chapters 15 through 17.
Okay, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. This committee has also reviewed Chapters 15, 16, and 17 of the Code of Ordinances relating to minors, miscellaneous offenses and provisions, and mobile homes. It has been proposed that Chapter 17 be retained in full, and that between Chapters 15 and 16, numerous changes be made. Specifically, provisions which have been found to be duplicative or unnecessary range from soliciting and peddling to playing in the streets causing obstructions, to borrowing from students within schools, to nude swimming in public, and certain provisions on weapons. Additionally, there are provisions under which current state or other laws have been deemed sufficient, and provisions related thereto are proposed for elimination, as relating to illegal businesses, the inciting of commission of offenses, resisting officers, the possession of instruments for crime, assault and battery, the unlawful use of telephones, non-support of family members, and malicious mischief and larceny, as well as open intoxication, jostling, window peeping, prostitution, controlled substances, and regulations applied to model glue. Additionally, there are provisions which have been deemed by the city attorney to be unconstitutional, including provisions related to the annoyance of others, unlawful assemblies and riots, and indecent language and conduct. And finally, there are provisions which have been deemed to be unused and may be duplicative with other efforts within the community, such as provisions providing for a local youth services board for which the city may be more productive partnering with local entities, such as the Community Foundation. Accordingly, as the City Commission is aware, the committee would recommend that in order to ensure public input is maximized on these proposed changes and to further engage the city's business community and its partners, that a 30-day period of time be established to receive public input about the proposed changes to Chapters 15 and 16 and the retention of Chapter 17 in full. Finally, it should be noted that the committee is currently about to review Chapters 1, 2, 3, and 18 of the ordinances relating to general provisions, administration, advertising, and nuisances. Accordingly, it would be my recommendation that the City Commission invite public feedback on the presented changes to Chapter 15, 16, and 17 of the codified ordinances for a period of 30 days and return this matter to the City Commission at a future meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Commissioner Miller. Would you like to make the motion?
Nope.
No? Okay, let's go back here to, let's go to Commissioner Tuorty.
Sure. I'll make a motion that the City Commission invite public input and feedback on the presented changes to Chapter 15 and Chapter 16 and 17 of the City of Sault Ste. Marie's codified ordinances for a period of 30 days and then return this matter to the Commission for a future meeting.
I didn't want to read all that.
There's a simpler way, we'll talk about it.
Exactly.
Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Mayor Bosmas,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tuarty.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you.
Item C under Communications is from the Downtown Development Authority, a resolution for Liquor Control Commission regarding Baker's Dozen's application for a redevelopment liquor license.
Okay, before we get into the agenda item, let's go to Commissioner Baker.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask the city attorney if I had to step down in order to answer any questions regarding the matter.
On this action, there's two particular things. One, you are conflicted out, therefore you cannot participate in either the discussion or any action on the item. The second item has to do with the fact that you are the actual petitioner, and should any of the commission have questions, I recommend that you vacate your seat and take the podium, as is normally done by people that answer questions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. City Commission. Commissioner, let's go to the city manager first, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. On this matter, DDA Director Nepper is here to present to the City Commission.
Okay. Evening, Justin.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Commissioners. The Michigan Economic Development Corporation, the Downtown Development Authority, and the City of Sault Ste. Marie, we've had a number of what are called redevelopment liquor licenses that have been issued over the years. And it's a special program only available in downtowns, in traditional downtowns, when there are no liquor licenses available for purchase through the general market or through the private market in the county. Right now, there's only one privately held liquor license that's for sale, which is Frank and Jim's down at Kinross, and it's not for sale without the business. So both anybody that's looking at purchasing a liquor license would have to check in and make sure that they've exhausted all privately held options. The last liquor license through this redevelopment program that was issued locally was for Penny's Kitchen. I think that happened about 2 years ago when Penny's Kitchen remodeled and added on to their kitchen and cooking area. That allowed them to apply for one of these, and the commission had used that option. From what I know, we have over 20 still remaining, maybe even 30, for downtown Sault Ste. Marie redevelopment liquor licenses. These are non-transferable licenses, and there are two or three things required to have access. One, you have to complete at least $75,000 worth of rehabilitation on a property in a downtown. So remodeling, new construction, so on and so forth, that gives you access as a private property owner. On top of that, as a downtown, we have to have at least $250,000 in public and private investment that is invested in the downtown area. That has been completed. There has been our city engineer, Linda Basista, put together a list that showed, I think, over $2 million invested in the last 5 years, including South Ashland Streetscape and a number of CSO projects, things like that, plus all the private development that's happened. So we meet both of those terms. Then the private property owner, by meeting both of those obligations, can apply to liquor control, and they have a fee of $20,000 that it must be paid to the state to get access to the license. So it's by no means cheap. There's a lot of investment that goes into this project, and Commissioner Baker's business that she is working on over at the old Sioux Automotive Building on the corner of Maple and Ridge would be the location for this license. The license is not transferable. You can't resell it. It stays with the business. So I'm very excited about what she's working on and on the next agenda item as well.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Justin? Just a comment I'd like to make, and I'm sure the commission feels this way. Certainly the new businesses that, and there's 2 of them tonight that are underway, and we appreciate the entrepreneurship of the applicants. And it's nice to see new businesses going in to the downtown area, which has struggled recently, but these are buildings that, especially the one that Commissioner Baker's been looking at, has been vacant commercially for some time now. The apartments have had folks in it, but it looks like a great use for the property, and I'm sure we all wish them success.
Absolutely.
I had one question.
Yes, Commissioner Miller.
The liquor license is non-transferable and they can't sell it. It stays with the business. But what if the business is sold? They sell the business?
The business can be sold and the license can be transferred to the future owner of a business, but it can't leave that property, and if that business closes, the license is gone, from all of my research.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. City Manager?
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, so the recommendation?
The recommendation would be to adopt the presented resolution on the subject matter.
Okay. Let's go to Commissioner Gary.
I make a motion to approve the presented resolution authorizing Baker's Dozen to apply for and receive a redevelopment liquor license.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty,
Yes.
Mayor Boswis.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you.
Item D is also from the Downtown Development Authority, resolution for Liquor Control Commission regarding Austin's Cigar Lounge LLC application for a redevelopment liquor license.
Okay, City Manager.
Thank you. Again, I would invite Mr. Knepper to the podium.
Okay, he hasn't gone far.
Very similar, definitely different business models, and I'm really excited about both of them. Craig Cooper is here. He just came up and spoke a minute ago. He and Kevin Cooper purchased the former Austin's Oak building that is on Ashman Street. Tom Robinson owned that building for a number of years, and Craig has been doing a huge remodeling job in that building. The concept, there's Austin's Oak, which is owned by Harold Bailey. He retired and sold that business. So Craig has been running that business and then working on a new business concept that will be on the other side. That used to be the last business that was there was Great Lakes Arts and Dance for a number of years. And prior to that, Austin's Oak Antique Shop had both sides of the building. And before that, it was Maurice's, from what I was told. So Craig has been working on a really cool idea in that area, and he's applying for the same thing, a redevelopment liquor license, again, based on the fact that there are no available liquor licenses in the county for sale, and he's doing work that is well over $75,000 in rehab on the building, and also is within the downtown development area that has completed over $250,000 on that project.
Great. Another comment, certainly like to welcome Craig Cooper. I know his dad's involved in the dentistry business, and been watching this young man for a long time, and it's nice to see him involved in our community, coming back and staying here, and being a new entrepreneur. Certainly Vanderhook Properties have been there a long time, and it's unique what he's doing and how he's going to make it, and looking exciting. Non-traditional type of a business, a cigar bar, I think it is. And yes. What will the other side be used for?
And Craig might be able to, if he's willing to, he might be able to give us even more information. But right now, he's running the former cigar and tobacco shop, the pipe tobacco shop, okay, in part, and that's I believe continuing. And you can actually stop in. The buildings are, it's probably one of the more transparent remodeling jobs that's happening. I think he has a Facebook page. It's kind of a crazy thing. You can go in, check out the store that's currently open, and see the ceiling tiles coming down, the walls changing, and all sorts of different things going on. So, but I would defer to him to any of the updates.
Yeah, if you'd like to talk a little bit about it, Craig, certainly the Cooper family long in this community, a lot of heritage, and it's glad that you're being part of the downtown.
Yeah, my family's been here for a long time. My grandfather grew up in Algonquin back when it was the other side of the train tracks. He was the athletic director at Lake State for a long time, coached men's basketball. My dad's a Lake State grad. I'm a Lake State grad. He came back here 30 years ago, opened up a dental practice. He's been running that dental practice now for the last 31 years. I couldn't imagine living anywhere else. So when talk of his retirement started, I decided that I needed to kind of form my own way. And one of the things that he instilled in me is a love of cigars and whiskey. And, you know, I felt that when I saw the cigar exemption license come up for sale, this was a great opportunity to start something different in Sault Ste. Marie, something we've never seen before, and something that could put us on the map as a unique place in the UP. It's going to be the only cigar bar in the UP, in the entire UP. The next nearest one is in Petoskey, then Traverse City. So when you look at the way we can advertise, we'll have the Locks, we'll have some great new restaurants with Abby's new place opening up, and Carl's and Wicked Sister coming along, and the changes that Maloney's made. You're going to start to see the Sioux sort of place itself on the map, and this is another business that can do it. And the other side, we're looking at renovating it. One of the thoughts is to move the tobacco shop to the front to get it some more visible space, but we're also open to anybody who has a good idea and is looking for some street front space to, you know, invest in a downtown business. But one of our goals is to bring people back to downtown. We feel that that's an important thing to do. When you look at the history of our town and the businesses in it, we need to start to focus there again. So that's our goal.
Commissioner Tuarte?
Thank you. Yeah, just, I don't smoke cigars, but I am excited about any sort of new and unique business coming to town. And not only that, but thank you for rehabbing one of the most present buildings in our downtown area. It's always been a beautiful building, and thank you for offering a beautiful retail space to somebody, because I think with you and the addition of Dana Sanderson's building, I think it's only going to be a matter of time that somebody's knocking on your door and they would like to rent that from you, because it's going to be gorgeous. So thank you very much for that.
Oh, yeah, and that was one of the things that, you know, talking with Justin and looking at, you know, available spots downtown, one of our goals was to be downtown and to revamp a building downtown, because, you know, I've lived here I'm 32, I've been here for 30 years. And so, you know, just as someone who's lived here, we want to see it continue, so young people want to move back and young people want to stay, and we can start to sort of bring our city into, you know, the next you know, age group of people. And we need to bring people back, and this is one way that we can do it, is revamping our downtown. Which is why I joined the Main Street Committee, and I'm really committed to helping in that cause. So.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. We have a motion yet?
No? I can
Let's go.
make
Commissioner Miller, are you ready to make a motion?
I move that we accept the city manager's recommendation for the control commission regarding Austin's Lounge LLC applications for a redevelopment liquor license.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Tuarte,
Yes.
Mayor Bosmas.
Yes.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Gary.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item E is from the Community Action Human Resource Authority, MDOT, amendment to Master Agreement Number 2017-0124/A1.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to the city manager, or let's go to Commissioner Tuarte first.
So I just have a question for the city attorney. Since I am on the Community Action Board of Directors who oversees Dial-A-Ride, should I abstain from the discussion and/or vote?
Yes, you should.
Thank you.
Okay, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. As commissioners are aware, the city currently maintains a multi-year master agreement with the Michigan Department of Transportation for both the operation of the Dial-A-Ride system and the International Bridge Bus. As commissioners also know, the city subcontracts these services to the Chippewa-Loos-Mackinac Community Action Agency. And here with us tonight are Tanya Van Mid and Anita Benson, who have been doing a very fine job operating these systems on behalf of the city. Right now, there is currently a multi-year agreement ranging from 2017 to 2021, which covers vehicle procurement, audit requirements, disposal of vehicles, and other functions. There is in front of the City Commission tonight an amendment which would be required in order to adjust the dollar amounts to meet federal requirements under Section 7 of the competitive procurements of the agreement. The adjustment is specifically an adjustment from $3,000 up to $3,500 for levels of procurement. And there's also a slight revision to the prompt payment language in Section 22 regarding retainage. It would be my recommendation that the City Commission authorize the City Manager and City Clerk to execute the Michigan Department of Transportation Master Agreement Amendment Number 2017-0124A1 with the Michigan Department of Transportation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gary.
So move the city manager's recommendation.
Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Mayor Bosmas?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
And item F is from Canava International LLC, presentation on Vietnam Veterans Commemoration and Honor Ceremony.
Okay, and with us tonight, Susan Pushka, President and CEO. Evening.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Susan Puska. I'm the President and CEO, and I'm also the founder of Canava International. We're a woman-owned small business. We're also service-disabled, veteran-owned, and we've been in operations for 5 years. I'd like to talk to you about the honoring our veterans ceremony that we're planning to do and working with local partners for the 29th of June. Canava is based in northern Virginia. We also have an office in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, and we work domestically as well as internationally in Africa and Asia and Afghanistan. We've been a commemorative partner of the Vietnam War commemoration since 2015, and in 2016 we helped do a ceremony at Sioux Locks. At that ceremony, we honored approximately 200 veterans. We also did a program that interviewed 19 veterans for a project that will go into the Library of Congress. So the question comes up, why would we want to do it again in 2018? And quite simply, once was not enough. We did not reach all the people we think we can, and we want to extend our recognition to our program to the Tri-County area and do a better job outreaching into Luce and Mackinac as well as Chippewa County. We also made a promise to 7 veterans who were waitlisted, who we were not able to had time to interview, and that we would come back. And unfortunately, in that time, we've already lost one of those veterans, so it was very important for the team, which is coming out from Washington to do the interviews, to come back. Additionally, there's a new program. It's started last year, and it honors specifically the spouses of deceased Vietnam-era veterans. And when I say era, officially the era of the Vietnam period is recognized from 1 November 1955 to 15 May 1975. So a veteran who served during that period, whether or not he was in Vietnam, is recognized under this program. Also, we wanted to recognize Canadians who served in the U.S. military. There were somewhere, estimates are between 10,000 and 25,000. Some people believe it's even higher, Canadians who honorably served this country during the Vietnam era, including service in Vietnam. So the projected program is to be at Brady Park. The reason why we're doing it at Brady Park instead of the Sioux Locks this time is we want to increase the participation of both families as well as the veterans. We want to ensure that there's easy access in and out of the facility. And we also wanted to expand what we offer this time. So the ceremony is projected to be held at 11 o'clock. The honor ceremony will be at 11 o'clock on the 29th. We have reached out to the Canadian Vietnam organization, and they are projected to bring their traveling wall. And there are the names of 143 Canadians who died in Vietnam on that wall. It's much smaller than our wall, but it's still a very moving and significant opportunity for that to be here. Additionally, we'd like to have a veterans village, which will provide information to veterans as well as some displays, and the U.S. Coast Guard is requesting a flyover. Other activities during that week is the historian that is included in a 3-person team from Washington, D.C. to do the interviews has agreed to do a history talk on the 28th of June, and that's scheduled at the Bayless Library. He will be talking about his research, including he's presently working on the historical panels, historical posters of the Native contribution to the Vietnam War. The interviews are scheduled between 28 June and 6 July, and we're also going to make a special effort to outreach to homebound veterans or if they're in facilities. In 2016, we reached 5 veterans in this way, and we believe we can reach far more this time with a coordinated effort. So we need help, your help, identifying veterans, not only veterans of the Vietnam era, to participate in this event, honor ceremony, and receive a pin and a certificate, which is signed by the President of the United States. But there are also some special honor programs for the living former POWs or their surviving spouses, immediate families of the unaccounted for or the missing in action during the war, and the immediate family of veterans who are listed on the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall in Washington, D.C. In this area, it does have several that in that category. In the third category in particular, for example, Newberry has 5 young men who died quite close together during the war. We also need help reaching out to surviving spouse of deceased Vietnam-era veterans and Canadians who served in the U.S. Armed Forces. So we need your help to spread the word about the honor ceremony and also about the military interviews. With the military interviews, we pass that information to DOD, and they will actually be scheduling when they will talk to the veterans, including Canadian veterans. We're looking for partners to volunteer. We will have ask for in-kind contributions. There may be some limited funds required. For example, the cost of bringing the Canadian wall here, although it is not as high as bringing the American wall, there still are some costs that we would like to reimburse the team that comes out here with that wall. So we're asking everybody to join us at Brady Park at 11 on the 29th of June. And all information, or if you have any questions or you want to provide a name, you can send it in care of me to info@canavainternational.com, or you can call me at this contact number. Thank you.
Any questions of Susan? Best wishes.
Okay,
It was a
thank you.
great time last year, and we look forward to it again this year.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes the reports. Now we're into City Manager's Report, item number 5.
Thank you, Mayor. Item A under the City Manager's Report would provide for the purchase of 1 new heart monitor for the fire department. On this matter, I've requested that Chief Labonte present to the Commission and community.
Okay. Evening, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. As usual, I like show and tell. This isn't in your way. So before you, I have one of our current LifePak 12 monitors, one of the ones we're proposing to replace. As your packets indicate, the fire department seeks approval on 2 possible actions. The first action being to waive or suspend the competitive bidding process for the purchase of a new LifePak heart monitor or defibrillator. After speaking to the City Attorney Canello, this measure was allowable because there is no competitive advantage to bid this project out. The second motion would be to award the purchase of the heart monitor with the fiscal effects noted. As articulated in your packets, there are multiple reasons for the fire department to continue using LifePak or physio control monitors. And just to give you a brief history, the city ambulance service has actually been using LifePak monitors such as this one for over 20 years. Their proven durability and reliability and parts and software have been just unbelievable. They've saved many lives over the years. All AEDs in the city and in the county are all LifePak physio monitors. So staying with this brand of monitor would keep us compatible with all the monitors across the board. Also with War Memorial Hospital emergency department monitors. So no extra devices would be needed to make our pads compatible with another manufacturer's pads, which obviously saves a lot of time. So obviously, like I mentioned, switching to another manufacturer would require us to clip in place some sort of a device that would allow us to connect one manufacturer's defibrillation pads to use with our monitor. It takes a lot of time. The MS personnel are already trained to use this type of monitor. The new monitor that we're proposing is actually a LifePak 15, which is one step up from this monitor as far as models go. It operates exactly the same way. Lastly, a 4-week comprehensive in-field try period was conducted with both manufacturers' comparable models. It was quickly determined by all fire department personnel that the LifePak line of heart monitors would continue to offer the best service to our citizens. The main reason for this purchase is to begin replacing outdated and obsolete equipment, which has been specified within the capital improvement plan. The CIP allows for the replacement of 1 heart monitor a year until all heart monitors are replaced. So currently we have 5 monitors, 1 in each ambulance and then 1 in our echo unit that goes outside the city. It should be noted that the total cost of 1 LifePak 15 as specified per current and future protocol requirements costs $47,081.42. Less $8,474.58 worth of loyal customer discounts, which brings the cost down to $38,606.85. This is higher than the budgeted $36,000 that was obviously budgeted for. It should be mentioned that the LifePak Physio Stryker Company is offering a $5,000 trade-in value on a monitor we already have. I would request that a budget increase in the amount of $2,600 in the expense line item and an increase to the general fund miscellaneous revenue of $8,400 be added, and it'll more than offset that overage. So, does anybody have any questions?
Any questions of Commissioner Twardy?
Thank you. Did you say that both the monitor and the defibrillator pads are compliant with War Memorial? So
Yes.
that does save a lot of time, because I remember when I worked in the field and in the ER, you were always ripping and resticking.
Right. Currently, we can unplug our stuff and plug it right into their monitors.
Excellent. Okay. All right. And I think it was great to note that this has already mostly been budgeted. And thank you for your due diligence on working on trade-in value and customer discounts to try and save the city as much money as possible. With that being said, can I make a motion?
City Manager, do you have anything?
Just to clarify for the City Commission, there are 2 motions. The first would be to waive the competitive bidding process, and the second would be to authorize the purchase of the LifePak monitor from Physio Control Stryker as presented with the detailed fiscal effects. Just to note that under the city charter, there are certain findings I'd like to present to the City Commission. In accordance with Section 12.1, certainly any time administration brings forth a recommendation to waive the bidding process, there's a lot of analysis and study that does occur, and based on the findings that this is a unique product, which employees are trained on already, the complete compatibility of the product, which ensures maximum response in public safety responses, the fact that the remaining monitors are of the same model, the fact that Physio Control Stryker is a lone supplier for the model with extended options in the region. It's my finding that there's no advantage to the city to seek competitive bids as there are no alternative products which fit the needs of the city and its public safety, and that alternative sellers and other products may result in distinct disadvantages. As a note, there is a precedent from the City Commission which did issue a similar waiver in August of 2009. So again, the two recommendations: first, to waive the bidding process, competitive bidding process, and secondarily, to authorize the purchase with the detailed fiscal effects. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Tuarty.
I'd like to make a motion that we suspend the competitive bidding process to purchase this piece of equipment.
Support.
It's moved and supported. Just a reminder also that this has to be a unanimous ballot, and it's 12.1 of the city charter. Okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuarty?
Yes.
Mayor Bosmas?
Yes. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Commissioner Tuarty.
Thank you. I'd also like to move that, oh wait, where's the second motion? Oh,
Just
that we
purchase it.
authorize the purchase of the LifePak 15 monitor.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuarty?
Yes.
Mayor Bosmas?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't go far. Okay. We have one other item coming up.
Would you like to do that now?
Now we're to the, once you close the
Sure.
regulars.
That was the last published item on the city manager's report, but if it pleases the commission, I would request that the fire chief provide an update on the Battle of the Badges game, which happened on Saturday.
The Battle of the Badges.
Oh,
At Fuller
goodness.
Stadium. Ice hockey.
Ice hockey, and what a day it was. I guess first things first, police won.
Again.
Again. I guess in my travels of recruiting firefighters and EMS, I'm going to have to find a ringer, but working on that one. Anyway, final score, 17-13. That is, of course, with purchase goals. Thank you. So overall, in the last 5 years, the police have won 4 games. We've won 1 game. Anyway, this past Saturday, players representing Sioux Police and Sioux Fire battled through 3 very fun-filled periods of hockey at Fuller Stadium. We had players with experience levels which ranged from very experienced to needing the boards to stop. All kidding aside, both departments had a lot of fun raising money this year. Personnel from both departments were able to raise approximately $1,650 for the Chippewa County Care for Kids Fund. We will continue to accept donations until next Monday afternoon. On a side note, after holding the Battle of the Badges charity game for the last 5 years, we have raised approximately $29,500 for various charities.
Excellent.
Thank you. The personnel are talking about the next event, which will most likely be a basketball game this summer. So we're really looking forward to that. As usual, we'd like to thank all those spectators who spent their afternoon with us on Saturday, everyone who purchased a goal, Rock 101, Eagle Radio, the City of Sault Ste. Marie for the puller, Sioux Eagles for their assistance with the game, and a very generous monetary donation. So thank you again.
Okay, let's also, you're still accepting money or
Yes, sir.
checks, and the checks should be made out to?
The Federal Employees Credit Union.
Okay, and just, but maybe in the memo area?
Battle of the Badges. Yes, sir.
Great. So until next Monday?
Correct.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
City manager.
That concludes the city manager's report. Thank you, Mayor and Commission.
Okay. Item number 6, the status report.
Item A under status reports is an update on the 2018 legislative priorities of the city. As commissioners are aware, the City Commission took action during its February 12th goal-setting session to identify and confirm the legislative priorities of the city. City administration has prepared the included legislative priorities document, which has been made available to the commission and public. The document will be very useful in discussing the city's legislative priorities with both state and federal officials. The document does represent what may be considered to be a current snapshot of legislative priorities rather than an endpoint. And just to touch briefly on a number of the priorities, a number of the priorities are financial or monetary in nature, which include revenue sharing to local units of government, fire protection grant funding, transportation, and funding to non-federally obligated airports. And specific revenue sharing, as the Commission is aware, Revenue sharing to local units from the state of Michigan has decreased by 28% over the last 15 years, during which time state revenues have increased by 29%, resulting in a loss of over $7.2 million to the city of Sault Ste. Marie. Fire protection grant funding over the past 5 years, for those 5 years, 3 of them, the formula provided 37% funding, resulting in just over $105,000 being provided to the city annually. The governor's proposed budget does propose $15 million in funding, which would significantly increase that formula and project increase in revenue by approximately $70,000 to just about $180,000. Transportation funding, as the commission is aware, there is legislation that does provide for an extra $175 million in one-time funding under the Act 51 formula. This does translate to just over $111,000 additional to the city of Sault Ste. Marie. Of primary concern is making sure that the transportation package adopted by the legislature in 2015 continues to be fully funded, with the projected revenues from fiscal year 15 being just over $1.25 million, increasing to just under $2 million by fiscal year 21, which is certainly necessary for continued maintenance and long-term preservation of our transportation network. In regards to funding for non-federally obligated airports, currently there are just over 100 Tier 1 and Tier 2 airports within the state of Michigan, which are deemed to be essential. Sanderson Airport is a Tier 2 airport deemed critical to the state's transportation network, but because of the fact that Michigan Aeronautics has a first funding obligation for federally obligated airports, there is a gap that exists among 20 airports, of which Sanderson is one, for which funding has been reduced. So certainly this is a conversation we'd like to have with our legislators. Rounding out financial concerns, address pension and other post-employment healthcare reforms, which continue to be on the radar of the Michigan Municipal League, municipalities, and the legislature. Other legislative priorities range from the adoption of legislation which would preclude the use of the dark store theory of property valuation, continued improvements to the joint dock wall at Alfred Park and Carbide Dock, as well as the construction of a new lock for which the city has advocated for a very long period of time. Supporting Lake Superior State University, its students, its institution being vital to the economic vitality of the community, as well as issues that range with our partners at the Sioux Area Convention and Visitors Bureau regarding short-term rentals and the post-Labor Day start of school. And finally, an issue which involves our strong partnership with War Memorial Hospital, ensuring that the rural hospital reimbursement pool for obstetric services remains in place, certainly something that benefits area residents so that they do not have to travel upwards of 3 hours for those services. So certainly this document is available for public review and will be of immense benefit working with our legislators as we continue to communicate the needs of the community.
Great. Any questions on the legislative priorities? Okay.
That concludes the status report section of the agenda. Thank you, Mayor and Commission.
Okay, thank you. Item number 7, matters presented by the public. Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to make a comment at this time? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item number 8, matters presented by the City Commission. City Commission. Commissioner Twardy.
Thank you. I just wanted to take a minute and just say congratulations to Lake State men's basketball. I know we have so many really talented groups and athletic sports in this town, but I just wanted to say kudos to them. They have such a great group of boys this year. They have such a phenomenal coach, Coach Steve Hettinga, and they were actually in the GLIAC championship on Sunday against Fair State University, and they ended up losing. But they still go on to Midwest Regional Championship against Hillsdale College next Saturday. And we're just really proud to have you as a group in our city. I am as a city commissioner and as a business owner, and just keep doing what you're doing, keep fighting hard, and maybe hopefully you'll beat Hillsdale on Saturday.
And just a follow-up comment, as long as, this basketball program under Coach Steve Henniga has been very good for many years, and the community is certainly fortunate to have Steve Henniga stay in the community. He's got a new 4-year contract, so if you want to see excellent basketball at the college level, there's no better spot than Lake Superior State University. We've been very competitive in the GLIAC for several years now under Steve Henniga's coaching abilities, and the boys just play tremendous energy. They're great, again, a great group of kids and young men, and we certainly wish them well in the tournament.
Yep.
Okay. Anyone else? Commissioner Gary.
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Support.
Okay. And just before we do, just of course, a word of good luck to all the sporting teams that are in district playoffs or quarterfinal playoffs in the community, because there's a number of them, so we certainly wish them well. With that, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.